State corruption causes. Terraform cannot reason directly from cloud infrastructure. It reasons from state first, then compares that memory against providers. A healthy state file preserves object identity, attributes, and dependency relationships. When state becomes inaccurate, Terraform begins making decisions from false assumptions. The damage appears later during refresh, planning, replacement, or destroy operations. Terraform stores the expected VPC attributes in state after apply completes. AWS stores the live infrastructure separately inside the provider API. An engineer can later modify the VPC manually through the console or COI. The infrastructure changes immediately, but Terraform state remains unchanged until refresh occurs. That gap creates competing versions of truth. Plans begins showing unexpected updates because state no longer reflects live infrastructure. Terraform tracks infrastructure through resource addresses, not through tag names. The address becomes part of the permanent state record. Changing a block name changes the tracked identity path. Terraform may interpret the rename as one object destroyed and another object created. The infrastructure itself may still exist unchanged inside AWS. The corruption occurs because Terraform memory now points at the wrong ownership relationship. Local state files exist only on the operator workstation. Two engineers can unknowingly maintain different state histories for the same infrastructure. One workstation may contain newer object mappings. Another may contain stale dependency information from older applies. Both engineers believe their plan is correct because both plans are internally consistent. The conflict only appears after infrastructure ownership overlaps. State contains provider metadata that Terraform depends on during refresh operations. The file is not only a variable cache, it is also an identity ledger. Manual edits can remove identifiers, dependency edges, or provider metadata. Terraform may still load the file successfully while silently losing object relationships. The failure often appears later during apply. A resource suddenly becomes orphaned, replaced unexpectedly, or impossible to destroy safely. On a submarine, a missing maintenance entry triggers verification procedures. A false maintenance entry is more dangerous because the crew trusts corrupted memory. State corruption behaves the same way. False confidence creates the largest blast radius. Remote backends relocate Terraform outside the working directory. Migration changes the location Terraform trusts as authoritative memory. An incomplete migration can leave operators pointing at different backend locations. One engineer may still reference older state while another references the migrated backend. Both states may describe similar infrastructure with different histories. The corruption emerges because Terraform no longer has one authoritative ownership record. Terraform writes infrastructure changes first, then persists updated state afterward. That ordering protects against recording infrastructure that never deployed successfully. The risk appears when execution stops between those phases. A crash, timeout, or forced termination can interrupt the final state write. The cloud object may already exist remotely. Terraform loses ownership mapping because persistence never completed. The next plan often proposes duplicate creation because memory no longer contains the existing object. Terraform assumes state has one active writer at a time. State locking exists to preserve sequential memory updates. Without locking, two applies can begin from the same earlier state snapshot. Each process calculates decisions independently from outdated assumptions. The final writer overwrites the earlier state result. Infrastructure may partially reflect both operations, while state reflects only one history. State corruption does not always mean damaged JSON syntax. Most corruption begins with believable but inaccurate infrastructure memory. Terraform trusts state before it evaluates corrective actions. That trust model allows small inaccuracies to cascade into larger operational failures. The danger is not only broken automation. The larger danger is confident automation operating from false ownership records.